Okay, so let's do part 2 about setting up the network, but this time with nmcli. So I'm going to do basically just the same, but with nmcli, although we could, since we did already, we did the first machine, and it's now set up on the first machine on the client. I will do the server, maybe that way it's a bit different. I mean, it's the same, but on another machine. And if I do IP route, then I see that everything will go through this, basically. This will be the gateway, which is actually the Vagrant gateway. So Vagrant basically gives this IP. I think if I check here, it should be something like the same. Yeah, exactly. You have this thing with the 2.2 is the same route, basically. You see it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same. When you make a Vagrant machine, by default they get that. You can make it different by configuring differently in Vagrant, but that's not the matter here. We want to use an nmcli. So we'll do on the server here, and first thing we need to check. Okay, nmcli, you need to remember that name. If you remember anything, remember nmcli and nmtui from the one before, because then once you know what it is, you can just do a man for the man page, and you can check nmcli, and it will tell you, especially towards the end, well, it will explain everything it does with the options and so on, but the important part is really towards the end. If you go, just click on the end, and you'll see a bunch of examples. And those that are interesting for us is especially nmcli connection and modify. So this is the syntax basically you want to use. And then you need to know here the name of the interface, and you will use then afterwards basically this. Actually, this is kind of, well, like here this is for a profile, but we are not going to change a profile, we're going to change the interface. So you will just put the name of the interface as you see it, and then you can, for instance, use that. You will need to remember, so method is important, the IPv4 method manual, because otherwise it will be DHCP. If you put automatic, we want to put it manual for the RHCSA. I mean, from everything I've heard, it's always manual, and in my exam it was also manual. And then you need to put the IP address. So in this case they put several of them, but in our case we don't want that. We just want to set one IP address, so this is really okay. You can put the shortcut version, or you can put addresses like this. This is actually the normal syntax, but you can auto-complete this, so you will see when we are actually using it. If you want, you can copy-paste that stuff, for instance. We quit, and then I just set it as commentary, and if I have a comment here, then I can just press and it will just stay in the comments. Like for instance, if I go in the history, then I will see that I have this comment here, or I go back and I have the comment. It's convenient. So anyway, I will clear that. And so one of the important things to remember also is that with an nmcli you want to check the device status. For instance, and you see, for instance, here in our case we want the @1, which name of the connection, it's called system @1. So if you modify the device, you need to pick that name. If you modify the connection, you need to pick that name. It's basically the same we saw in nmtui. Those things are very similar. So in our case, if you remember here, if we take, where is it, this one, we can do it in several steps. So this is basically nmcli connection modify, and then you put here, you will set the name. So for instance here, system @1, because we choose connection, modify, and then IP for method manual. IP address, as you see, if I do tab, it will autocomplete, and then you give the address. So we said we want, okay, we might change this one. I will just do like this. Oop. Second one, and then we put, let's say, okay, I'll change this a bit. Server client, let's say, and this will be server. Actually, I will do like this. Yeah, it's good. So we'll have it like this, and then we just can copy paste this, basically, and we set it here. Then you can do it all in one command line if you want. You can do it in several command lines. Maybe it's easier in several, but it's basically the same. So then you can do IPv4 .dns, and then you give the DNS. So DNS was what? Oh yeah, you can also use some, I always forget what is / but anyway, this kind of formulation. But yeah, you would need to copy paste it from somewhere first, so it's not ideal. So IP DNS, and then the DNS you will set then 1.2 say.1. What was it we had in the DNS? The .1. Okay, that's very simple. You don't need to put the network mask in this case because it's just the gateway. So you can the DNS, and then you can put the gateway. It's the same principle. If you just type gateway, yeah, it's very simple actually. And 16.1.1 because it's the same. Method manual is already entered, so it's also fine. And that's basically it. So with that, you have modified your thing. So if I try it now, let's see, I'm curious, will that work? And it worked, yeah. But in order to apply the changes, you need to bring the connection down and then back up again. So in order to do that, you need to do an nmcli connection. So you can also call it connection. You don't have to use the shortcut, or modify, and you could also use the long version. If you press tab, it will do the long version, but you can just use the short version like I did above. And in this case, we don't want to modify, we want to bring the interface down. But we need to name it. So what is the name? And here it won't tell you. Actually, yes, it does tell you. See, even with if you do double tab, it will tell you system, and then you can finish it. So it's really easy to use. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to do a & for if this first part. So let's say if this first part succeeds, then this will trigger the next action, and this will be to bring it back up. So basically I can just copy this, zoop, and I will just change down into up, zoop, and then it will just, basically like we did with nmtui, it will deactivate, reactivate, and you see connection system at Ethernet 1 successfully deactivated and connection successfully activated. So it brought it down and then brought it up again, which essentially is taking into account the new settings that we set with this. So if I now do an IPCA, then I will see that I have now my new IP address. And if I do an IP route, then I will see that I have now my new route through the gateway, which is basically this here. So yeah, and that's it. So the default gateway will be that. Anything we want to send outside will be sent through this, unless it's in here. So here is the DHCP, that's with Vagrant. And basically now that we have this, maybe we can even connect the two. I'm not sure, it might be that we need to set this up in Vagrant, but let's try actually. If I do a ping 192.168.1.12, and it's working, you see, because I'm connecting, actually let's do a trace route, and trace route command, okay, apt install, trace route. It's DNF, sorry, my bad, I'm too much on Debian. So let's do it, let's install it, and I install trace route, and let's see where it will go. So does it go through, it has direct connection. Well, it's very easy, yeah, perfect. It just went straight for it. No, this is my interface, but okay, yeah, it works good. Anyway, so we now used nmcli to set up the connection, and you see it's very quick if you know what you're doing. Basically nmcli connection modify, then pick the interface from the nmcli device status, or you can also do nmcli connection status. Actually, let's do it. nmcli con status. Yeah, why not? What can I do? I cannot check the connection status. Okay, it can only be device. Connection show. Right. I forget always. But basically, it's the same. If you do nmcli connection show, I think it's the exact same thing. Maybe the order is different, but who cares? Than nmcli device status. You see? It's reverse. You see the difference. Device will be in this fourth column, and the name will be in the first column. So anyway. Well, you understand the principle. So now that we've been doing that, we just need to do one single thing, and that's change the host name. And since we didn't use an nmtui, we haven't changed the name. So in order to change the name, we need to use the command hostnamectl, hostname control, right? And then set hostname, and then you give the hostname you want to do. So maybe since we gave it the name choubidou here, which we can see here, we could name it, I don't know, whatever. Okay, let's change this a bit. choubidou.lab hostname client, and here we will name it hostname server. And what could we name it? choubidou.lab or choubidou server. choubiserver. Yeah, that sounds like a good name. An excellent name. So, and there we go. Now, if you want to check that, you can use the hostnamectl, for instance, and you will see it's appearing here. Now, if you want to make it happen immediately, I think you can do some exec bash something. Refresh. But basically, if you do an exit here, you exit here, and then you come back in the server, then you will see also the choubiserver. Another one you can do is just do exec bash l. I was just searching that, I forgot, and now I see it. So this one will basically reload. For instance, let's try it now again. Okay, where is it? Okay, it doesn't keep the. This is annoying. It doesn't keep the history, but it's okay. It doesn't matter. I will do it again. And then we will say something like this, something horrible, let's say. And we will keep it like this. Oh, it doesn't. Yeah, right. Okay. Wait a second. I need to do a sudo up. And then let's do hostname. That's why I didn't have it. Okay, let's do a horrible name again, and voila. And then we do exec bash -l, and you see it comes immediately. So you can do it again. So let's say choubiserver.lab. And if you do this one, it will immediately show up. But you can also just log out and log in, which is anyway good practice to check that it's working. And that's it for this lesson, because we did the nmcli configuration of the network, and we did also the hostnamectl also with the command line. In the first one we used nmtui, which is maybe easier, and in the second one we used the command line, which is, if you're good, maybe quicker even. So both have their pros and cons, so I suggest you try both. But in the exam, if you just feel comfortable with nmtui, why don't you use nmtui? Both are fine. Both are completely fine. And that's it for this lesson. Then we will jump to another lesson afterwards. But that's it for the network configuration and hostname configuration, which was the first question, basically. We did this part now. Okay, see you later in another lesson.